Alright, everybody, welcome to another episode of Max and Howard Drink Beer. I am Max.
And I am also Max.
You are?
No, I'm not.
Then I am also Max.
Whoa! So that's that.
Right. So
Okay.
Howard, what are we drinking today?
We're drinking we're drinking a Wisconsin nice one here. We're drinking the Lakefront Shifter Pale Ale. And now what's interesting to me about this, and I've had this on draft before, they say it's a pale ale. It's got a little pale malt. It's got a little wheat malt. And, you know, it's supposed to be like a maltier IPA, which is interesting. They say that it has hints of peach and strawberry, but when I had it on draft, and you have a hole in your chin, you got to look out for that. But they say it's got all those flavors, and I didn't really hint that in the draft. So we're going to try this right now to see what it actually tastes like. And Max, I think you already had a sip of that, and what are you thinking?
I did. It tasted so good, I let some of it go up my nose instead of, just down the gullet. I wasn't ready. Clearly, I'm not trained enough to drink beer today.
Right.
Because I did let it fizz, but it tastes pretty good. It's got that pale ale.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have that I in front of it.
Right.
Which is really the thing that worries me about beers. I really don't like when I see that. I actually don't mind an American pale ale.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that's a lot less like bitter. Yes.
Right. So I definitely taste a little hint of peach in there.
Okay.
Just okay. Slightly. It might be all those apricots I ate for lunch.
Oh yeah, we did have a lot of apricots and a couple of strawberries too. Yeah, that was cool.
But yeah, it's not bad.
Right on.
Gotta get my phone out here, for the Untapped app. Now that we started doing that, we're gonna figure something out. Maybe we'll share, maybe we won't. We'll just talk a bunch of shit about a bunch of shit.
A bunch of shit.
So, Lakefront Brewery's Shifter.
Yeah, and I are you looking it up?
I'm not looking anything up.
Okay, good.
I don't even know how to look.
Like I said, I don't really get the. I guess it's fruitier. I mean, like I said, the for whatever reason. Oh, dude, where did we go?
Where did we go?
What was that bar called? That they had it, and I had. Yeah, let's try that. That sounds pretty good.
Oh, check that out.
So I mean, I don't know.
This is interesting. I didn't even know.
What is that?
Well, I'll have to go back to it because we're gonna go through this, and now that we're playing with this app, which if anybody likes it, we were told by our buddy Morgan that it was like
there was a couple of people that told us.
Pokedex, Pokemon type thing with beer.
Yep.
So
Correct.
for any of you nerds out there, this is a great app. It actually can tell you some local bars that are around that are part of it for advertisement if you're looking for something nearby. I haven't clicked on any of them but one, and they kind of showed like, hey, we have these beers here. So that's kind of a cool feature. So if you're looking for something different, some of these bars that are on this app, they show you ahead of time, so you don't just go to this bar and go, oh, hey, what do you have that's craft? And they're going to say Spotted Cow, and you're going to look at them like...
That's right.
No.
That's what else do you have? The Miller Lite of craft beer, at least in Wisconsin.
Right.
Yeah.
So, based off of this, because I'm at that point of this app, where would you put it, Howard?
Where would I put this?
On the scale.
Oh, dude, I'm texting bitches right now. I haven't even been thinking about, drinking beer yet.
Well, you should, because, you're drinking beer right now. Come on, focus. Your focus requires more focus.
One sip, everybody knows the rules?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. You don't know what I'm talking about. Listen, this was pretty good on draft. Like, I liked it a lot. It had a good flavor to it. I'd probably put this higher than most beers. I'd say this was probably a 3.5.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where I'm kind of looking with that.
I'd drink this somewhere else.
What's that?
I said I'd drink this out other places.
Oh, yeah. I bet you... God, what was the name of the bar that we went to?
Which one?
The most recent one. We haven't been to a bar since that one. It was in Milwaukee. I want Jack's American Pub.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
That sounds close. It might be Jim. Could even be Joe, but
Jose?
no, it's an American pub.
Yeah, that's why I said Jose.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So you ready for this?
Yeah.
Shifter, right?
Right.
So 6 hops.
6 hops.
Right.
That's a lot of hops.
6 gears. That's why it's a shifter. It's a hot blend kick of strawberry, peach, and apricot flavors into high gear, while a pale malted wheat keeps it a smooth ride.
Ooh, that's pretty.
Yeah. So it is. It's an American pale ale. That's why I'm sitting over here tolerating, instead of being like, ew, it's an Indian pale ale.
Right.
Yuck.
Right.
Gross.
And the Lakefront is a little bit more heavy on the throttle with that, too. So, yeah, there is that.
So, Howard, we talked a couple episodes ago, last episode. 4 episodes ago, 17 episodes ago. Who knows? We can't count.
No shit.
But we had a game plan today. We were going to do some talking about some of our top albums of music.
And because a friend of the show, a all-around good guy, Stanley Mendola, the 8th, or is it the 3rd?
17th?
It might be. But we call him Stanley Yelnats. And actually, we call his kid Stanley. We're supposed to call him Stan. I think that's how that works. Because then we all get confused about who's who.
We're still confused. Numbers are not our strong
We
point.
are confused, but Stanley, he nominated us to do a whole bunch of different rock and roll stuff, and we figured that'd be a way better radio show than an actual, 10 days worth of Facebook posts. That's just tedious as all get up.
I'm not about that life, honestly. I don't like posting on Facebook unless I'm badgering everybody to listen to our podcast.
Right.
Other than that, I don't have too much to say.
Right, exactly. And I have a lot to say. That's
right.
why you follow me on Facebook.
Right, even on Twitter, right?
Not so much. But,
and on all social media directives.
Well, yeah, kind of. But if you're looking to follow Max and Howard drink beer, that's way more important.
So, Howard, you wanna kick us off with album number 1, D. Howard?
These are the most important albums in my life. These are what inspired me. They're not exactly the top 10 albums that I would take with me on a trip to whatever it is. But yeah,
that was a good one. That was still one of my favorite ones. That definitely was a brain teaser for my dad.
Yeah, it was.
I bet you he's still thinking about it. If he'd stop by to talk with us, I bet you he's got his list now.
Huh. Yeah. So my first album that really inspired me to go on the path that I went, and it's going to blow your mind a little bit, Cat Scratch Fever by Ted Nugent.
Uncle Ted.
We listened to this back to forth. There was a cassette tape on the... Yeah. In the truck. It was fun and that was back in the days with cassette tapes, and we listened to it back and forth. My favorite song off of that album, and this kind of shaped me into the man I am today, the man you know me as, Max. It's called Homebound. You know what was interesting about the song Homebound?
What was interesting about the song Homebound?
No words.
Ooh.
It was instrumental. It was an instrumental song, and it's such a beautiful song. By Ted Nugent. It was just... Yeah. It was something you'd hear at Six Flags, because it was just so...
fanfare-y and triumphant.
Yeah, it really was. And, Max, when I die, you can bury me to that song.
Okay.
So
that was decided.
That was the number 1 album that sent me on the trajectory that I was on.
Okay. All right, so I was a strange little kid.
I know.
As you've heard numerous times. One of the biggest album musical influences that I had. And this was when I started choosing my own path of music. So we'll get into some of the other ones that inspired me for more music. But one of the big ones that affected me was A Love Supreme by John Coltrane. And that was the absolutely crazed, drug-possessed John Coltrane music, where this dude was playing the saxophone and it sounded like a man possessed.
Right.
And it was so weird and so out there. And I remember numerous times I'd have the thing cranked in my room, and as you know about my childhood, my music was way too quiet for my dad. So he came upstairs one day, heard me playing this as loud as I could, and goes, "This is interesting. Do you want to actually hear it?" What do you mean? You know, when I'm a little kid, I had my little stereo, and you know, I was like 8 or 9, which, like I said, strange kid for listening to John Coltrane at that age. He took me downstairs into our basement and put it on his stereo, because the only way to properly listen to music, as you know, Howard, is at 98 decibels, so that you can get the full feel of what the song was supposed to do. So that was one of the big ones. That was the first time my dad let me play my music, as I was trying to figure out who I was as a music lover, on his stereo. And that, for me, is the most profound thing, because guess what? It is just as absolutely batshit crazy at 98 decibels as it is at like 20.
John Coltrane?
John Coltrane, man.
You know, and I've been kind of finding, personally, I'm supposed to wear a hearing aid, and I don't wear it, and it makes me feel handicapped.
Right.
So I don't wear the hearing aid. And because I don't, it's cool to hear the music at full volume to kind of, like, hear everything.
Yeah.
When you put the hearing aid in and you put it at full volume, it just sounds like noise, which is crazy. You know,
well,
so
you have,
that's that.
You have, if I remember right, when you did that hearing test a number of years ago, I saw the spectrum. You have basically a natural built-in earplugs.
Right.
So where that drops off, you still hear the full range of stuff. It's just, it's dropped. You know, like if I just put earplugs in so you can hear, you know, to protect my hearing. So at the end of the day, who of us is really handicapped? It's probably still you.
Yeah, for a lot of reasons, to be honest with you. So, yeah, John Coltrane. That's an album I got to look up. You know, I listen to a lot of, like, jazzier albums. I really liked Dizzy Gillespie, you know, and just bands like that. And, you know, I was just so into, like, rock music, you know, and just the showmen of the... You know, those times, you know, and okay, sure, all that big band stuff like Glenn Miller was good.
Yeah.
You know, but let's get crazy here, you know. We were talking about this in the last show. You know, you talk about a lot about Van Halen 1, and I gravitate more towards when they were changing history.
Right.
You know, 1984 changed the whole trajectory of music itself, but you know, even more so than the Beatles and all of that. 1984 was a big deal, and that changed the whole trajectory of metal, and that was one of the first albums that I listened to and liked every single song the whole way through. So 1984 is another one of my most inspirational albums.
Well, and that album ripped, man.
Oh, man.
It got you up, it picked you up, and you rode that high for the entirety of the album.
There were 3 or 4 keyboard songs on there, and that's when we were starting to really get interested in the keyboard.
But, I mean, you got to think of some of those songs. Some of those became iconic.
Right, exactly.
You know, I mean, just everything of it. I mean, we talk about it all the time. Hot for Teacher.
Yep. And you can probably argue that was the last great Van Halen song. You know, the last true Van Halen song. You know, guitars and, you know, fun times for everybody and all of that. Oh, man.
Well, I mean,
Sit down, Waldo!
I specifically remember Panama from that one. And it was because me and Morgan were very heavily into Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Yes!
You know, and as younger kids watching that when the Panama part came on, you know, it's just like, you know, every time you think of it, when you think of Panama, you think of a girl bending over. You know, and even something, I know specifically now, some of these songs like, what was it? Jump. Jump was just in that movie a couple years ago. It was the main song for Ready Player One, I think it was called.
Really? I never saw that movie.
And, well, that was a fun movie in its own right because it brought back a lot of nostalgia. You know, you had the DeLorean in it. You had the Iron Giant showed up. You know, but that song, to me now, I can't, every time I hear Jump, I start thinking about that movie. Like, that's how good they roped that into. You know, like, hey, here it is. This is what it is. Yep, there it is.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that is one of my number one. And that's tough, too, because we've talked about the whole, what albums do you want to bring on a desert island? It's one of those things where, you know, 1984 is a quintessential album, but Van Halen 1. And, hey, how about Van Halen 2? Those were both killer albums, you know?
Well, you know, that's just all of that. I remember, I think, the first thing I heard was Cradle Will Rock from Women and Children First.
Right, yeah. That was another good one.
And that was my introduction to Van Halen. You know, so when you go through it, I did not start Van Halen where everybody else did.
Right.
So the fact that I continued to like them from that album to go hear the rest of it, you know, it's just that. But I got an interesting one for you because we're going to talk, you know, the first thing I remember when we're talking music, the first full album I remember was Queensryche.
Oh.
Okay, so the album was Operation Mindcrime. And
Right.
I know, Eric, if you're listening, you know that we played the ever-living shit out of that album and the next one that had Jet City Woman on it, which was Empire. We played the ever-living shit out of both of those albums. But that was my introduction to rock and roll, in all honesty. You know, that is the reason I wanted to pick up an instrument. That's why I wanted to play guitar. You know, every aspect of it. And I loved the facet of Operation Mindcrime because it was a rock opera.
Really?
So start to finish, the first song tells a story, and it continues through, and it goes through this whole thing. You meet, you know, Sister Mary and all this fun stuff, and then, you know, she dies, and the character freaks out and all that fun stuff, and it's just, it was wonderful.
Yeah.
I loved every aspect of it. There's a couple cool things about it. It was also my introduction to music videos. Because my dad had they made a full music video, like a 30-minute or something, of the rock opera. So as you heard the songs, you got to physically see it, you know. And Jeffrey Tate and Chris DeGarmo did a phenomenal job on that album. But the cool thing was a girl that I dated in high school. Her dad was cousins with Chris DeGarmo. And I got to meet him once at a family reunion.
Chris DeGarmo.
Yeah.
Does he follow us?
I have no clue.
That looks familiar. Oh, I might be thinking of Tom DeGarmo.
Tom DeGarmo, yeah. That's her brother.
Okay.
But, yeah, so I got to meet him once and just talking stuff. And, you know, I hope everybody appreciates it. I won an award that year of the world's smallest forehead.
Oh.
Because
I didn't know they were measuring.
They all have, like, 5 heads.
Huh.
So a couple of them were drunk and making fun of, like, what the fuck's up with your forehead? Why is it so tiny? I don't know. So that's a continuation of Operation Mindcrime that was a huge impact on why I love rock and roll.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, I think that leaves me. Are we only on the first album?
No, we're through the second album.
Okay. Oh yeah, because I said 1984. All right.
You did say 1984.
I'm on the right path now.
You should probably cross that off so you don't forget.
Maybe I won't cross it off because neither of those albums are cross off worthy. But
well, we'll just talk about it again. It was a great album.
they were both great albums. And speaking of great albums, dude, I am about as predictable as you can get with most of these things, to be honest with you. And my third album is Highway to Hell. And just another awesome album from front to back. And, I recently, dare I say it, rediscovered the album because they had it on Amazon Prime from front to back,
Oh, nice.
I'd say 6/8 of that album is on radio. They play it regularly.
6/8.
Yeah, I would say, no, that's wrong. 7/10. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Because it was like a 10 song album. And like 3 of them they never played, and the 3 that they never played were fucking awesome too. You know, so just that album, another album that never had a bad song on it. You always heard Highway to Hell. Every now and again, you'd hear Night Prowler. Mm-hmm. Touch Too Much, Walk All Over You. Shot Down in Flames is another one they pretend isn't played very often.
Yep. I know I hear
Girls Got Rhythm.
I know I hear that one every now and then.
Oh man, just you can't beat the whole album. It's just so good. And then Get It Hot. And it's such an underplayed song. And it's just all the songs on that album, and it'd be perfect from driving to Lake Zurich and back. You'd hear the whole album, just front to back, the whole thing, and it was great. The end.
And it was great. The end.
Yeah, I really liked that album.
So if that's the end, one of my favorites through everything, and you're gonna love this because I'm a drummer. So, what's every drummer's favorite drum album of all time?
Rush.
2112, man. So I loved it for different reasons. It actually got even better for me when they did the Guitar Hero Warriors of Rock, I think it might have been, or whatever, because you had to unlock this secret weapon and you had to play 2112 in its entirety to explain the story of this. And it was kind of cool, throughout life there were different people who used that song specifically to explain stories on, different characters and stuff of that upbringing. But I mean, they had Passage to Bangkok, which was a really cool song too, and Twilight Zone, which had its eerie stuff. But I really liked the song Tears. It was just a very quiet, ballad, and then it just all of a sudden came in and just came right into it and had just a slow rock groove. You know what I mean? You can argue with anybody. This album was considered the top of their game.
Yeah.
They were on fire. They were untouchable, and they did something that everybody else at that time was terrified to do. And so when you talk about it, I mean, every drummer says Neil Peart, 2112,
yeah, they really do.
Greatest things that was ever done.
Pretty much.
But I think everything he did. The man wrote the lyrics for all the songs too. So you gotta appreciate that. This is a drummer who wrote the lyrics and the melody lines and everything. He wasn't just a drummer.
Yeah, that's true.
He was a virtuoso. He was, dare I say it, a metal god. So that's why I put that album specifically on my list, because every time I talk about it, start to finish, is the only album of Rush that I like start to finish, where I will not skip a song in any mood that I'm in. You know how it is. You listen to music you like, you get in a mood. I mean, I have days that I hear Van Halen and I'm just like, I'm not really up for Van Halen right now. Let's listen to something else. This Rush album, to me, start to finish every time I put it on. So that's why I put that on there. And I like Rush.
Yeah, and you said, technically they're not considered metal, but that's about as metal as you can get, 2112.
Yeah.
If they're not metal, then what is Tenacious D? Because they're right there too, I would think.
Well, there's all sorts, I mean, technically, if I was calling it, I would say they're more progressive.
That's what I would say. Yep.
And I would say this is where progressive rock came from.
Yep.
You know, because Dream Theater is progressive metal. You know, those guys are just insane from all of it. But, you know, that one is definitely in my list of big influential albums. And this one, like I said, is one of the ones that I would throw on the desert island. You know, that I could listen to over and over and over again. You know, so that's it. Like I said, I like Rush. A lot of people don't. They can go fuck themselves.
Yep. Yeah.
It's not for everybody.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'm with you. You know, and there's only a handful of Rush songs that I even like. 2112 is definitely one of them. Yeah, so we're on my next one. I'm going to cheat a little bit. It's a greatest hits album, but this was what kind of got me through the door to be who I am today. When I was in 8th grade, I had to do a project on, you know, something from the 60s. It was our quote-unquote decades project. It was a big deal. And somebody had taken the Beatles. I was a big Beatles fan in 7th grade. And so, okay, so I'm not allowed to take the Beatles. Who's next? Okay, I'll take the Rolling Stones. Okay, so I'm doing a project on the Rolling Stones. Okay, so here's what I want to do. I want to get this album. And my dad says, no. What you want to do is get this album, because this is when all their songs were from this decade. And so you're listening to all the songs from that decade and what they played and how they evolved. Hot Rocks for the Rolling Stones was pretty much that album. You know, it is from 1964 to 1971. Of course, I liked all the songs from 1971. You know, none of the songs from the actual 1960s. Because some of that stuff, man, too, you know, the older... Not older, what am I thinking? The newer Rolling Stones, when they were trying to find their way, and once they found their way into that grittier sound, then they were fucking killer, you know? From Satisfaction on, it was over. It was all out of this world, you know? I would say that Let It Bleed would be one of my top albums to bring on the desert island. Okay. But Hot Rocks was what really inspired me to get into the Rolling Stones and to get on that trajectory of music that I listened to. So, yeah, Hot Rocks. The greatest hits album.
Sorry, I just got to respond to my dad here quick.
No, hey, that's all good. We're hanging out. You know, people, we're real people, too. Just saying.
So the another big one for me, you know, and I keep going back farther and farther, and you've heard me talk about it before, was Miles Davis. Mm-hmm. You know, the guy right. was exceptional.
Yeah.
You know, and even if you weren't into blues-style music, you knew who he was.
Yep.
You knew what he was about. The dude could do pretty much anything with the horn, but the album for me was Some Kind of Blue. You know,
Some Kind of Blue.
Yep.
Okay.
And this album was just it had this first song on it. It was called So What. And I remember specifically, like, that was my introduction to, you know, jazz and blues music. So when I heard this is what sticks in my head when I hear blues music. You know, obviously a lot of people think Stevie Ray Vaughan,
right?
Know,
yep,
who definitely popularized it. But I think this Miles Davis song every time, you know, just hands down, the guy knew what he was doing.
That's for sure.
And he had no limitations.
That's for sure.
You know, especially they'd be like, oh yeah, these notes that he plays don't exist. When you'd put him on a piece of sheet music, they'd have so many lines above the sheet music because he could play to the stratosphere. And he could do it effortlessly.
For sure.
You know, so that's why I always, everything of it, you know, puts it right up there. It's one of my albums, I think, that, you know, would I bring it with me to Desert Island?
And that's the thing.
I'm not sure. You got to be in a mood for it, but
I think that's a song too.
It is.
Okay.
Not by him though.
Yeah.
But yeah, so fourth album on my list, Some Kind of Blue.
It's kind of crazy to, compare what's that, the albums that inspired us as kids aren't necessarily the albums that we would bring on the Desert album. That, Max, is a whole nother show. That might be 2 or 3 shows.
Yeah, right.
Because, Jesus, we're talking too much about the 5 albums. We're not even halfway to through the list, Yeah. With that being said, my last album, this is where I really learned to be a showman. Welcome to My Nightmare by Alice Cooper. That guy put on a show no matter what he did, whether it was live, whether it was in the album. That show from forward back is one of the...
Whether he killed Motley Crue?
Oh my God. Well, that was cool too, and even the last Motley Crue show was cool too.
So I got a cool story for you about Alice Cooper.
Okay, I'll let you go first.
So, not to steal your thunder from this, but
all good.
When I was just out of high school, I joined a band, and we were hanging out. We were doing a bunch of cover stuff.
Yeah.
We were okay.
Right.
We hadn't quite figured out what we were doing yet for anything. But we would try to hang out as bandmates, even though we didn't know each other previously. And I went with a guy by the name of Jack. He was a bass player. And we were trying to build that bass player-drummer dynamic so that we could get along. So we went miniature golfing one day. Just like, hey, you want to go miniature golfing? Sure, why not? Let's go miniature golfing. We go to this golf course, and as we are at this golf course, getting our stuff, Alice Cooper is walking off of the golf course from golfing.
Mini golfing?
From actual golfing. Because they had an actual golf course at this mini golf course.
Uh-huh.
But, think of Alice Cooper, how you know him, how you love him on stage.
Right.
He was golfing in black jeans, cut off shirt, all his eye makeup was on. This dude goes out to play golf in the middle of summer and everything. He is Alice Cooper at all times. So Jack looks at me and he goes, "Hey, that's Alice Cooper." Alice! And he goes, "Hey guys, what's going on?"
That's awesome.
Rock on, man.
That's
We're just
awesome.
I'm sitting here just starstruck. Just we're fucking playing mini golf where Alice Cooper came to Milwaukee to play golf. What the fuck? And the whole time, it was just we were playing and I'm I can't believe we saw Alice Cooper. But that's my story with Alice Cooper. We actually went and saw him at Summerfest that year. That's what he was in town for.
Right. Yeah, he's a cool dude, and I loved that album. It was a concept album just like that. The end of some of the creepiest music you've ever heard, and it's just...
Oh, yeah.
So cool.
Oh, yeah. I remember specifically when I started getting into metal and stuff, high school-wise, I went and searched out some of that because it was just I heard, I think, bits of Feed My Frankenstein because that's what was on Wayne's World, right?
Yep, and that was what was...
And that's kind of how I expanded from, just I use a lot of movies, to pull my music from.
And that's weird because I use a lot of radio. You'd hear School's Out on the radio. You'd hear No More Mr. Nice Guy on the radio. You'd hear stuff like that. And it was fun to listen to.
Oh, yeah.
So you kind of go off of that. Welcome to my nightmare. You go from that. And suddenly you get to Only Women Bleed. That's another killer song. And it's just killer song after killer song. And that's how I always like. That's another album I found on Amazon. It was just listened forward to back, and it was great.
Okay. Well, yeah. So my last one here, right? So we can wrap this up here.
Yep.
Was Linkin Park's Hybrid Theory.
Huh. Linkin Park and Limp Bizkit are completely different, right?
Completely different.
Okay.
Yeah, one's from Jacksonville and the other's not. I'm pretty sure that's how the whole ordeal works.
Right.
But Hybrid Theory and a lot of people, our age would agree that was a profound album when it came out. That it had those dark, emo-y kind of feeling lyrics that everybody felt. It hit those teenage years for a lot of us and pushed us through. And I loved a lot of that stuff. It had a bridge of I'm not big into hip hop.
No.
But it had shades of hip hop.
Right.
But it had the musicianship of everything, and Chester Bennington, fucking voice, man.
I couldn't even tell you a Linkin Park song, to be honest with you.
Howard.
I know.
I'm so disappointed in you. You're going to be upset with me because that's all we're listening to the rest of the day.
Yeah, probably.
Just every song on that, really hit home and everything of that. I can't even think of the songs, and I'm really disappointed in it because I should know them all. But if it started playing, I could sing you every fucking word to it. Because I listened to that album front to back thousands of times.
Yeah, I believe it.
I bet you my dad actually knows all the words because I listened to it so many times.
I believe that, too.
But, there was, what was it? It was, In the End, that was the big one. That was the huge song that... the doon, 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 doon.
That was Linkin Park?
Doon, doon.
Huh.
That was Linkin Park.
I vaguely remember that one.
So, and I mean, it was a long album, if I remember right. It had, 14 or 15 songs.
Right.
So, for you to be able to, at least even 10 of them, which I'm pretty sure I hit far beyond.
Right.
I could listen to that even to this day. If I could find the album, because I know it's somewhere in my house.
Yeah, I believe that too.
I would find some way to play a CD and throw it in there and just listen to it
That'd
start
be fun.
to finish.
Yeah, that would be fun.
That was one of the few that, even today, I think, it's, I don't know, maybe 20 years ago.
That sounds right.
What
year is this?
October?
Yeah, that's right.
So that one's number 5 on my list of influential albums that helped make me who I am.
Yeah, that sums me up pretty good too. There's so many other ones,
Oh man, all of it alone. You were talking to Alice Cooper and 6 Ozzy albums popped in my head. And
right.
How did I forget about Ozzy?
Exactly.
But I feel like these ones, at least top 5, if I would not have heard one of these albums, I would not be the same person I am today.
I would agree with that.
So with that though, Howard, my beer is getting low, which means it is about that time. We want to thank everybody again for listening to us and dealing with us. And if you guys want to take any time and comment on any of your albums that you want us to listen to, just shoot Howard a call. Cool. His number is 7.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, right?
Yep.
So, guys, thanks again for listening. Once again, I am Max.
And I am Howard.
All right.
I think.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.